Hey, Magic fans, welcome back. This is your captain speaking here on Capnclydes MTG. Today, we're going to talk about the best cards from Murders at Karlov Manor for the Pauper format. That's right, the best and cheapest legacy format there is, Pauper. We're going to take a look at what the best cards are from the set that could be making an appearance in Pauper. So, before we get started, don't forget, comment, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, comments down below, all that good jazz, links in the description, so forth and so on. Easiest way to support the channel, just subscribe and watch some videos. That's all we really ask for. We're also on Rumble. Check us out over there. And without further ado, let's get into the poor man's Magic game, which is probably one of the few pure versions left. Pure. Anyway, we're going to start with an honorable mention, which is Demand Answers. A lot of people are telling me this should be in the top 5. I've had my talks with my friends and my buddies. One red and one instant. Draw 2 cards. You can discard a card to draw 2 instead of having to sacrifice an artifact, so it's playable, but I think the problem is Pauper being very high powered and low mana cost centric. This is just stalling for time, which will leave you very vulnerable to a deck that's going to be bringing the pain fast, quick, and hurry. Fast, quick, and in a hurry. Anyway, yeah, so I just don't think it's good enough, but it is an honorable mention because if you got your jam going and you need to burn through your deck, this is definitely a good way to do it. So, if you are making artifacts that you want to sacrifice, this is the best thing to use to sacrifice them. Just saying. All right, so with all that out of the way, let's start with number 5 on my list. We have the Snarling Gorehound. 1 black for this 1/1 with Menace. Whenever another creature power 2 or less enter the battlefield under your control, you get to surveil 1. Good things about this card. Drops on turn 1. You can drop a creature on turn 2, get to surveil. And surveilling is basically mana fixing the top of your deck. If you want mana, look for mana. Put cards in your graveyard. If you like what's on top of your deck, leave it there and draw it. Lots of positive things here and a lot of deck manipulation, especially if you get more than one of these out because they will each trigger them. They will trigger off each other. And if there's 2 of them out, they'll trigger twice, surveil 1, and then you can surveil 1 again. If you like something on top of your deck, it's going to get stuck there. But if you really need to mill through your deck and maybe even put stuff in your graveyard for delve commons, this is the way to do it. And you can start delving up them sweet, sweet Pauper commons really, really quick. So anyway, also, on the flip side, it's got Menace and it's a 1/1. So if you're playing some kind of pump and dump where you lay a creature, it's a Protect the King or Protect the Queen style, where you load up some enchantments, they have to block it with 2 people. So it makes your combat tricks really good, especially if the enchantments or whatever it is you're putting on this lets you either draw cards, pump its abilities, or whatever shenanigans you're trying to do. Makes this card very, very enticing for Pauper. So, moving on to number 4, we have the Red Herring. Dun dun dun. So, red and 1 for this 2/2 with haste. It must attack each turn if possible. Not the best, but 2/2 haster for 2 isn't bad for red. And if you know it's going to attack in and get killed, you can leave some mana up, and when they block to kill it, if it's not going to kill something profitably, you can spend 2 colorless, sacrifice it to draw a card. Notice there's no tap ability on it, so you can swing and then sacrifice it, or swing and hit and then sacrifice it if something weird's going on. So, very cool. I think it's a real good card. I don't know how well we'll say, play in Pauper, but with Monastery Swiftspear finally getting the kibosh and Pauper, this might be a suitable replacement. I mean, not the best and not better than Swiftspear, but a suitable replacement. And when I say suitable, I mean like your second cousin twice removed. But anyway, next we have card number 3, and this is something people aren't very on my side about, but we have the Rebel Belt Maverick. 1 green, 1/1. If you're playing green, this thing comes in, you get to surveil 2. That is amazing. Again, if you're playing decks that want to surveil, and you want to delve big creatures onto the battlefield or spells or effects or whatever, like Hooting Mandrills, this thing is going to get you casting Hooting Mandrills really, really quick. Plus, it does do damage. It does block. It is a 1/1. It does trigger the dog if you're playing green-black. Dun-dun-dun. And for 1 green, you can exile it from your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on a target creature, and pump your team. So it's not only the Surveil 2 that's going to really get it going for you, but it can actually make your team big enough to survive once it's in your graveyard, if you don't delve it away or all that good jazz. But anyway, with that being said, I think we're getting a good mix of Surveil cards now that some delve decks may be a little more popular coming up in Pauper, like a Hooting Mandrills deck or the black ones you can delve for big death touchers and what have you. I think it's very possible because normally it'd be really hard to get those cards on the battlefield because they do cost a lot. But I'm not going to lie to you, I'm really looking at building a delve deck for Pauper because all these Surveil cards, I mean, what's it really matter if you throw everything in the graveyard if it actually powers out everything else you have? So, yeah, there's that. So, and for that reason, the Rebel Belt Maverick, I think, might have some life in Pauper if delve becomes a thing. Now, moving on to number 2 on the list, we have Extract a Confession. Black and 1 sorcery. It has an additional cost where you can collect evidence 6, which is where you exile cards, total mana value 6 or greater from your graveyard. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you collect evidence, instead they sacrifice the creature with the greatest power among those creatures. I don't see this card having the evidence collected on it very often, especially in Pauper. But just the ability for 2 mana to make your opponent sacrifice, or make each opponent sacrifice a creature, it helps you get around things that are non-targetable, things that have ward, because there are some ward creatures that are relatively cheap that do see some Pauper play, or hexproof or whatever it is they got going on. So this is one of the few cards we have that actually can do this at the common level, and it's only 2 mana. Again, collect evidence is great, and let's not forget, we talked about Surveil cards to make delve decks. Well, maybe you're surveilling because you want to have a whole bunch of evidence going on. Not a lot of cards on the list really get into the whole evidence category of being good, but now that I look at it, maybe you do a deck with lots of surveilling that not only can do delve, but also can collect evidence for some decent bonuses on the backswing. That could also be a thing for Pauper. I mean, that's one of the great things about Pauper. As these new decks come out and new commons get printed, it really does shape the format into, we'll say, some shenanigans. But again, Pauper being one of the most powerful formats close to Legacy, I know it don't have the powerful cards, but because of the restrictions and it's only commons, it's kind of developed into its own version of Legacy, which I have to tell you, if you haven't played Pauper, you should try, because it is a powerhouse. Now, with that said, we're going to move on to our last sweet card, which I think is going to become a Pauper mainstay, in my opinion. And that card, the number 1, is Slice from the Shadows. A black and X instant. Target creature gets -X/-X, and it can't be countered. This lets you get past any creatures that have ward or anything else. It's basically a fireball for creatures. It also stops indestructible creatures. I know there's a couple of them that are commons. Pretty sure they're white ones. Maybe not. But anyway, point being, it gets rid of indestructible creatures, creatures with ward and indestructible. Yes, it is a mana sink, and it may take a lot of mana. But let's be honest, most things in Pauper, if you haven't played it, are very cheap and very small. Because it's a very, like I mentioned before, Legacy-style format where the stuff is kind of small. Which is why delve decks may become a thing if this becomes one of the mainstays for removal. Because most creatures in Pauper have a toughness, of 1 or 2. Sometimes you get 3. But even at 3, 4 mana is not bad. I mean, some of the best removal spells in the format cost more than 4 mana. depending on how you use them. And this one is just good. So yeah, with that said, I think this is the number one card we're going to see incorporated into Pauper. So with all that said, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Until next time, be kind. And as always, I hope to see you across from the game table. Man, I wish a girl jump on me like that. I mean, minus the knives and the intent to kill, but, whatever.